Most artists think they need better Instagram strategies or sending more emails or growing their email list or learning all the general marketing advice to sell more art. And although that might be true, but after 7 years at Nike Footwear Design and 20 years of selling my own art on all sorts of different products, I can tell you if you fix these three things that we talk about today, rather than spending another dollar on marketing advice or chasing viral reels, you're going to have a lot easier path to selling. And this applies whether you're charging $3 for a small product versus a $8,000 painting. I have done all the different levels of pricing, and this applies no matter what price you have for your paintings or anything else you want to sell. There is a huge problem we have as artists. I think a lot of artists are really misunderstanding how competitive it really is in the market. I can tell you from many, many years working at Nike and selling my own work, the market is way more competitive than you think. And I want to let this sink into what it means to you, not in a way to intimidate you, but to understand how big this competition is. I'm going to give you some stats that I have personally learned through an article I thought was really helpful because it gives us context. Artists generally create about 25 to 50 artworks annually, and that's a rough estimate. Some obviously do more, some do less, so that's an average. And with an estimated 5 million active artists today, this results in 125 to 250 million new artworks a year. That is a lot of art. A ton of art. I don't want that to intimidate you because there is a solution. And when you understand really how competitive it is and you really take a stand of, I'm going to understand this, I'm going to figure this out, there is a way to actually have a solution for this. So don't feel intimidated by this. Feel more educated of, oh, that could be actually a reason why it's been so hard selling. I have a video that I do go into more detail on the competition around the idea of why your art isn't selling and it's not your marketing. Check that one out. I will definitely put a link in the description and you'll see it above as well. So let's talk about what you can do though. I want to give us some solutions because all of us need solutions. I need solutions as well. And I have seen this hurt my work when I'm not paying attention to this. So just know it happens to everyone. Everyone is affected by this. And if someone says they're not, they're completely lying. Sorry, but that's the truth. Making unique work with a unique point of view to stand out is an actual solution. Now, this might feel like it's hard and that you don't have anything unique, but I can tell you based on a lot of artists that I help, a lot of people really underestimate that they have some superpowers that they think really are probably ordinary, but that is actually a really unique angle, and that can really be something you can leverage. So it is possible. So don't think that you don't have a unique point of view. You do. You absolutely do. So let's talk about how it works practically from a creation cycle. So number one, inspiration. I think this feels like a very fluffy topic for most artists, and I see a lot of artists collect artists for inspiration. But I actually think this is a bad advice or just a bad way of doing things because it doesn't really give your unique point of view. It only speaks to other artists and how unique they are or what they're doing. So it doesn't really speak to you as an artist. It only speaks to who they are as an artist. So this tells me when I see this and I see artists come to any calls I've done over the years, and I can literally see they've got a whole board full of inspiration and it's all artists. This tells me more about the artist than themselves. So we need to understand really what our unique point of view is, but it's probably hard because a lot of artists are way too close. I've seen people underestimate something that feels ordinary to them, and they're way too close, as you probably can feel yourself. You think, I'm just ordinary. I felt that too. But the reality is, we are on the inside of the jar trying to read the label, and the label is on the outside. So that is one of the challenges. You really have to figure out how to get outside of the label And I have spent a lot of time thinking about this because this is hugely important to the success of my art and how I help other artists as well. The other part to this is you need to know what you're selling as an emotion. Now, I want this to sink in for a minute. You are selling an emotion. It doesn't matter if you're landscape, abstract, portraits, there is a vibe, a feeling that you are selling. And I think a lot of artists don't actually understand what they're actually selling in this emotion. I've seen a lot of people really not understand what that means, but think of it like this. People fall in love with your painting. That's an emotion. They're not literally going, I love your technique, your composition. They are talking about something softer, something they feel connected with, like they can't stop thinking about it. It's like a love, and that is an emotion. So if you don't know that feeling, that emotion that you're selling, it can be really difficult because it can really not resonate with people. They might be confused on what your vibe is or that emotion, and so they're not necessarily feeling connected. They might feel more confused. That is real. And whether you're selling an expensive painting or something little, I can tell you it's across the board, and it's true for all sorts of products, not just paintings and original art. But it's important to talk about it because it's something we have to address, and I think a lot of artists don't understand how this could affect your sales. And when you're not really clear on that emotional connection that you have with that buyer, and if you're trying to sell to everyone or anyone, it's just not going to land. It's really not hitting the spot for anyone. So number 2 is what I would call positioning. Now, this is probably sounding like a really advanced word, and I'm going to break it down for you, but I think a lot of artists don't know where they fit into the market. And I'm going to talk about what that means to you as an artist, because that is real. That is an actual real thing. And if you don't know where you're fitting into the macro trends, consumer buying trends, really in the whole broader context of the world, it can be really difficult. And after studying trends since the late 1990s, as Nike's color director in footwear design and applying this to my own art, I know it's important. And I'm not talking about being trendy. I'm talking about really understanding cultural shifts. And it's so big. You have so many opportunities. I have boiled it down to 8 big consumer buyer trends that are in the current world today. And what's really cool is if you know your position and where you fit into the world and people want to buy it, it's a whole lot easier. You don't have to push a rock uphill. I'm telling you, it's so much easier when you understand this. You're not bending into something else. You are using the clarity that you have about how people are responding to things in a way that helps you as an artist, because you're responding to things. It's way more aligned to you than you think. And this is why I've been able to sell my work on cards, small studies, large scale works, and higher end paintings as well. I know where I fit into the market and who is willing to pay what price for it. And that's a huge advantage. I've been able to sell over the years in all sorts of different markets that I choose to be in. There is a place for you in the market. So you really need to understand your positioning. All right, let's talk about number 3, which is what I call a studies system. Now, this kind of sounds basic. It's not, but you really need an advanced breakthrough system. And I'll tell you a lot more about that in other videos as well, but let's talk about really what it is. This is a way to filter good ideas out before your final work. You need a consistent way of producing unique ideas that allow you to evolve as an artist, because people get bored quicker than you think. You will get bored quicker than you think. And the market moves on whether you want it to or not. And so what was once working isn't working anymore. I've seen this over the years. I wish it wasn't always true, but sometimes the market moves even if you don't want to. But what I can tell you is when you have a process that allows you to have a consistent way of having breakthroughs, it's nothing to fear, but it is something that becomes exciting when you're always creating breakthroughs in your art. And my study system is really allowing me to innovate and come up with unique ideas that are mine, that allow me to filter out all sorts of testing bad ideas and filtering the good ones. You need a consistent way of experimenting with new ideas and filtering out what really feels like you. Now, it might sound like you need to be someone else, but you don't. You need to actually lean into your unique self. Those weird, quirky parts, those are things that you can use to your advantage if you understand that and how you fit into the context of the world. When you start really understanding this and creating unique ideas and breakthroughs for yourself, you're actually leading the market rather than following it. And it's way easier than following the market and copying what you see on Instagram. 99% of the art market is not innovating. There's so many artists taking the easy route, but I think people think it's easier to just copy people, but it's not. It's so much harder to sell. Might be easier to make in the moment, but way harder to sell. If you're willing to experiment and take some time to try new things that feel more like you. And so that is where the gold lies for artists who are willing to spend more time on their art rather than spending more time on their marketing. And personally, that's what I love to do. That's why I love it. All right, let's talk about the last piece to this study system. Having a process that allows you to develop ideas also allows you to sell your small mistakes. I know that sounds crazy, but as you develop things along the way, you actually make your mistakes into gold through this process. And so you can sell that journey. So you don't have to wait till you get this perfect painting and only do one big painting. You can actually sell the journey that you've discovered along the way. And so I have been able to sell all sorts of experiments and trials. And I've sold so many studies that were experiments that maybe they were failed at the time, or maybe I didn't want to scale them up, but I was able to sell them along the way. So having a process that allows you to develop that also allows you to sell things and provide your audience with a journey that they can actually buy into and have fun with along the way. So that is really important. So the solution here, just to recap, definitely getting better quality inspiration that actually goes more into an emotional connection, and understanding your positioning is hugely important and not to be underestimated. And then being able to experiment and really go into spending more quality time on your art. I really think that's a missed opportunity that I think a lot of artists don't understand how valuable that is. And there's more advantages when it comes to inspiration and studies. That is something that I use in my studio, and I teach that a lot to artists because I really feel like having an advanced inspiration method is important. So when you're ready, there is a link in the description to check that out as well. But for now, go check out that other video if you haven't already on why your artwork isn't selling and it isn't your marketing. You're going to want to watch that. I'll see you there.